So it is 7:10 because there is no longer an acting chair for the Historic Review Board. I am calling the Historic Review Board meeting to order for December 11th, 2025. There are no attendees in the audience. A few years back, the Historic Review Board added a public comment section to the front of the meeting. That is not needed tonight because we do not have any attendees other than the applicant and the Historic Review Board members. So I can jump into tonight's land use hearing application that we are reviewing and considering. I know that Paul and Howard do have internet capability and can get me questions and concerns through email following today's meeting, and the decision will wait until we hear from them as well to make sure that there's no concerns from their perspectives. Um, so with that, I will share a little presentation, which is a summary of the Oh, this is the staff report. Sorry. Oh, there's Paul emailing me. Hold on one moment, and Paul will join us, and we will have a quorum. I am not sharing my screen yet so that I will be able to see Paul when he joins as an attendee. So bear with me one more moment. Oh, there's Paul. Perfect. Hello, Paul.
Hello, sorry.
That is okay. We had a general discussion, and
Okay.
then as I was beginning my presentation of tonight's land use application, I saw your email notice pop up. So,
Thanks.
you have not missed anything, except
Okay.
I did share that Chair Schmier has resigned.
Yes, I'm
So,
aware of that.
yeah, I was not sure who all was aware of that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
So, as noted in the staff report that you all got last week, we are here tonight to look at a land use application for a major alteration of a historic landmark structure. It is considered a major alteration because is not maintenance, and it's not the replacement of existing materials with like materials. And so tonight, although it is maybe considered by some to be a minor alteration because there is no change to the footprint of the structure, um, it is a major alteration application that we're considering. Many of you were involved in the Waverly Country Club pool house application that was reviewed earlier in the spring. So you may recognize this structure. The primary clubhouse is oriented north to south with the west facade overlooking the river and the pool. And then there's a 1930s addition that was added to the property uh, with the Gabriel roof uh, in the 1930s using the same architect. But as the country club needs change, they had additions. Tonight, as I mentioned, the applicant is proposing an alteration to the historic landmark clubhouse. It is the historic structure from 1913 that led to the designation of the property as a historic landmark. And the modification is to 3 doors on the west facade of the country club. One door would be modified to be a service window, or there would be an addition of a service window on the west facade, and then the doors would be changing location. And that is because of interior alterations that you're not considering tonight. What happens on the inside of the structure does not require review by the Historic Review Board because it is not part of the historic landmark designation. Um, so, Sherry, to your question that you posed prior to the start of the meeting,
Right.
the Historic Review Board is here tonight because of your expertise with historic resources, whether it be architectural, experiential, interest-wise, or living in a historic home. You all have expertise and you provide a an important service for the county by reviewing land use applications to make sure that you agree with the staff recommendation or that you uh, come up with a consensus between the Historic Review Board on how modifications to a historic landmark can retain the historic integrity of that landmark. So your job is to make sure that any change to a historic landmark is compatible and appropriate for the historic landmark. And you make a recommendation to staff. That recommendation is based on our zoning code. And so later on, we'll look at the actual sections that you will be considering in your recommendation. But before that, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of the alterations that have occurred on this property through land use. It was designated a historic landmark in 1986, which is one of the older ones. A lot of our historic landmarks weren't designated until the 1990s. The approval on this site has included many structures and changes. There was an equipment shed that was damaged, that was rebuilt. There was maintenance facilities that were rebuilt. There were pro shops that were rebuilt. There was a golf course renovation. There was a boat moorage. So through the years, Waverly Country Club has changed. Earlier this spring, you all approved the addition of a pool house and a reorientation of the pool. So as the country club has changed, one of the things that the Historic Review Board considers is if it's still in line with the historic structure that was originally designated or the site that was originally designated. Sometimes historic landmarks are designated because of the characteristics of the site. In this case, looking at the land use application that designated the structure as a historic landmark, most of it was the the historic nature of the country club itself. It was the first golf club west of the Mississippi. Like that is significant in and of itself. The clubhouse was also had was also significant historically. The architecture um, was amazing and still is. Um, but when we look at the designating land use application, we're looking at those pieces that were identified as significant that led to the historic landmark designation. So in 1986, when this structure was designated a historic landmark, it was primarily the eastern facade, like the entryway of the clubhouse, that was shown to be super significant architecturally. And they note that the west facade that overlooks the river has changed through time. One of the things that you all are looking at tonight are these doors. These doors were not original. So if you look at the picture of the original house or the original clubhouse, the lower level, the daylight basement, has windows along the entire western facade. Well, as the needs of the country club changed in the 1950s, they needed locker rooms. They needed additional space that you don't necessarily want windows in locker rooms. Um, and so they put doors to the locker rooms and replaced the windows. However, this change occurred in the 1950s. So by age, these are now historic doors. The placement of these doors has obtained historic significance just because of their age. Looking at the picture here, there does not appear to be any significant flourishes or um, accents that were added to the doors to make them fancy. They look like just pure functioning doors. So in my staff report, you'll see that I did not find these to be architecturally significant to the overall historic landmark. And however, I wanted to make sure that with your expertise as a historic review board member, that you concur with staff's assessment that these doors, while old, don't necessarily contribute to the architectural significance of the clubhouse as a historic landmark, and therefore can be modified as requested by the applicant. Um, this is a little bit of the history. And James, this I stole from the PowerPoint from the spring. And because you were not here in the spring, I wanted to highlight this for you specifically. Um, White House was the architect, both in 1913 and in the 1930s, for that additional wing. And the National Register highlight how White House, the architect, um, is the architect for several notable buildings in Oregon, 15 of them listed on the National Register, including the Oregon State Capitol. Nothing in the designation indicate that White House was involved in the 1950s, probably after their time. Um, and so there is nothing tying the conversion of the windows to doors to the White House plans for the clubhouse. Um, so as you saw in the staff report, Sherry,
Mhm.
um, we are supposed to make sure that the major alteration does not change any of the defining characteristics of the building, its site, or its environment. So as you're thinking about these doors, the and the addition of a service window, one of the things that you're thinking about is, does it change any defining characteristics of the clubhouse? Yes, James?
Oh, I was going to ask, do we, at what point can we ask questions of, the question for me was the doors, if they're reusing the same doors or if they're replacing the doors.
That's a good question. After I go through a couple more slides, then the applicant will have a
Yeah,
chance to present, and that would be a
yeah,
great thing for them to talk about.
okay.
Um, and you guys have seen these. Um, these are the criteria that staff use to recommend approval for this. Um, I don't think that the character of the property will be changed because the footprint is not changing. And there's nothing in the significant features of the clubhouse that are being altered by the change in the doors. Again, that is my perspective. Um, it does not appear that the service window or the change in the doors will create a false sense of historic development. But your question of using whether they're using the same doors is a good one. And I don't know if those are the original doors from the 1950s or if they have been changed since then. So that's another piece of information. Um, because if they're the same doors, then they might be historic because of their age. Again, one of the things that provides a significant architectural value is distinctive features or finishings. And then, Sherry, one question I always ask myself when I look at exterior alterations is, if they were removed, would the historic materials and construction of the historic landmark be damaged or destroyed? Or would it still remain the same significant architecture and structure that led to the designation in the first place? Um, here in the staff report, I did include a picture of the service window. It's very modern. I figure Paul will have a comment about that. James, you may as well, or Pam or Sherry. I look forward to hearing your discussion about the service window. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the scope of work. So the top picture is the current configuration of the three doors. The bottom picture is the new service window and the new location. I thought that was a new location, but it looks like it's in the same spot. When it's on top of each other, it's easier to tell. So it's just closing off two of the doors. So, applicants, do you have anything else that you would like to share, or would you like to address James's question about whether you're using the same doors or the same door?
Certainly. Joy, we could we could present a few more exhibits if that's acceptable.
Yes. Um, are you the one sharing your screen?
I will be, yes.
Okay. I have made you a co-host so that you have the ability to share your screen.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is similar to the earlier image Joy shared on the west facade. Again, the existing west plane of the building has been augmented since its original construction, and so per kind of current configuration and construction, there was an expanded deck and a large, I guess, hyper bay window, a projected bay window within the upper level dining room that shifted the lower western plane of the building out a little north of 10 feet. And again, these modifications occurred kind of circa 1950. And so the original windows that existed back in the uh, initial construction no longer exist, unfortunately. And so it's a fairly banal utilitarian facade, again, that provides largely access to and from an existing kitchen and changing in restrooms that exist on that lower level. And so the proposal essentially is to infill two of those three doors. There is a modest shift of that existing door, Joy, which you had noted, just for internal clearances and access relative to interior kitchen renovations that are planned for kind of building code and exiting that we're improving and addressing here as part of the overall project. The proposed kind of walk up and service window that's been referenced exists kind of within the west facade here, dashed in just to show the proximity of where it exists on the existing facade. Um, as Joy noted, it's very kind of slight in its improvement between original and proposed. What is proposed, back to I think it was Paul's earlier question, um, there is a new window and new door proposed, and that's only for more modernized, more durable kind of construction and updated construction. So it's would be a hollow metal painted door to mitigate again weather conditions, rusting, and just kind of a more durable kind of solution and access point. Uh, this plan demonstrates kind of the location of all the proposed exterior demolition. So again, illustrating the three doors that are proposed to uh, be removed and the new opening for the proposed service window. And you'll see, again, the two infilled portions of the existing doors and the very slight offset of where that previous door existed within the balance of the facade, and then the new service window. Um, to the note and comment relative to the more modern or contemporary window installation, it's really intended to be a single large glazed opening, not a otherwise kind of roll up utilitarian door that you might see in kind of a concessions configuration here. So it's meant to again preserve visibility, kind of echo and bring back some of the existing apertures and windows that were kind of previously existed along the west facade, and open it up in as much as this probably represents a cleaner, more contemporary approach and strategy relative to materials. The intent is really to provide a very simple operation where the full window tilts, actually creates a kind of a canopy and shade along that that area, even though that coexists underneath a existing trellis, so there is some shade along that west facade. But it does it does offer the ability to provide some vertical mullions within the balance of that window, as we've kind of illustrated here, to give it a little bit of scale and character along that facade. Otherwise, it's a very, very simple approach. Since submitting the application, we were actually made aware that there was a previous service window in this facade that I don't believe was ever submitted or recorded, and we don't have any drawings or time period. So where we see kind of this flashing ledge here, apparently this was the previous location of a previous kind of service area that was since infilled and kind of blocked in as a solid condition.
Are you going to be doing any facade repair where that previous service window was, or is that just staying the way it is?
We had not intended to do any work where that existing condition kind of resides, uh, Joy, but the intent is certainly to match the color as well as the texture of the stucco where all those other doors are proposed to be removed and or modified.
So, James, for your benefit, this is usually where the Historic Review Board jumps in and asks questions. So if you have any others other than the door, please feel free to jump in. And I look forward to hearing the discussion.
I have a couple questions. I agree with Joy in the staff report. I don't believe the blank utilitarian door is an issue. It wasn't. It was in place at the time. They were in place. The style of the door was in place at time of registration. So I don't really see that I have too much grounds to stand on to address that. But I do have a couple aesthetic issues in regards to the window. And I was curious as to what the thought process was on the mullions that you decided to use, the mullion layout on the window. The picture that you have of the new tilt-up window has a different mullion layout than the elevation. And so I just was wondering where you guys came up with that, where you pulled that from, why you pulled the two vertical mullions, and because I don't see that layout, mullion layout, fitting scale or the other buildings, either the upper buildings or the other buildings on that bottom floor. And I want to make it clear, I don't have any issues with the mechanics or the opening of how the window opens. The tilt is fine. I understand, for the service window and things like that. But I am a bit concerned about the look of the window. And then my other question is, are you guys sure you looked at lighting? Because if you're tinting that window and it's a canopy, is there going to be enough light? You don't have any new lights going in around that. The service corridor there itself looks very well lit with existing lighting. But if you have any kind of tint to that window so that people can't see into the kitchen, there could be some problems with reading a menu or grabbing some silverware and some napkins and things depending upon what's being done at that service window. So those are basically my two concerns here, and was hoping you guys could give me a little background as to what you were thinking about in those two areas.
Both really really great and incredibly valid questions. Pam, I'll pull back up if you don't mind the elevation.
Please.
I honestly, I think the reaction was where that service window is proposed, and the character in the elevation of that was we could simplify and make a large, grand, single pane work. We simply felt like breaking down the scale of that overall opening to reflect kind of the character and scale quality of other doors and windows on the property. What better addressed again, just kind of and echoed kind of some of the details and profiles of the existing building. And so versus one single large opening, to break that down a little bit in scale and kind of mimic the size of the doors and the character of those doors kind of within the overall facade was, I think, the intent. And then certainly, again, back to the, I guess, question relative to the canopy itself. The projected canopy is really kind of a serviceability kind of effort. Again, more operational. The lighting, to your point, there are existing lights that are kind of dappled kind of throughout the whole trellised area that stand outside this area where the new service window would exist. There are lights within the interior that would highlight both kind of the service counter for the opening, as well as kind of menus. And this is largely perceived as a operational need kind of through daytime serviceability. Certainly when the pool and kind of lawn activities are in play. There are other formal operations relative to dinner service that would kind of reside and come from the larger kitchen, kind of behind the scenes. And so it's really intended more as the daily operation that would address kind of the pool and poolside activities and really activities during the day on the golf course.
Yeah, but they'll be having special events at that pool. So that was my concern. As long as you guys have considered the lighting, I'm fine with that. I do the mullions just are not working for me. They don't match the bigger windows up top, and they don't match the smaller, more multi-pane windows on that floor. And so I would like to see the windows probably match the other ones on the doors on that level. But I could possibly understand if it meant that the scale is off to the big windows up on the upper floor. Those are so big, and this window is not that big in size. This is more horizontal, those are more vertical. And so the scale just with the mullion layout isn't working for me. So
Thank you for that, Pam. Paul, I see that you
Okay.
have your hand raised.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I have concerns. My primary concern is both the material of the window, believing that wood is critical, and the mullions need to be not imitations or something stuck on a piece of glass. They need to be part of 3 separate sheets of glass where they go all the way through, and there would not be any faux materials in metal, fiberglass, or a lot of that stuff in a building like this, and it should if it's possible, and I know that I have an 1880 house that I rebuilt that we live in, and I know that wood windows are available and can be fabbed together, and they're not that difference in price. You just need to find the right people, and they are available not only in Clackamas County, but in Multnomah County that do these types of windows. And they should have the trim around them that is representative of what was on, let's say, the front of the building or the east side, where you can see some design characteristics, not just straight utilitarian. And having it swing up, fine. I just want it to look like it's a historic window and use historic window methods and have it be appropriate and not detracting from the historic materials currently part of this building. And so that's, I think that's my main point there. I think we could do better in making sure that it does not detract. Thank you. I would hope you have an opinion on that. You can tell us what you're thinking.
Asking the board, or are you asking the architect? If the embellishment is to trim the windows out to echo again other quote unquote historic details, maybe that are longer lived than the 1950s and 60s, Paul, I think that is easily accommodated for sure.
What about the change to the material, the wood materials and the mullions that are separated in distinct units of glass?
That is something, Joy, that we would have to look at relative to the manufacturer's ability to deliver. Again, with the intent of this being a single glazed unit that is operable, means it's less like a static vertical residential window. There's some complexities relative to the engineering that goes behind how those lights can be subdivided. And to Paul's point, we would hate to just apply materials to look one way that would otherwise cause a maintenance challenge. So that's something that we will have to, if we understand the intent and the desire to provide those particular conditions relative to approval, we can certainly take those on as a condition. We would just need the opportunity to look at a different manufacturer relative to the window.
That would be appreciated.
Paul, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
In a little bit more modern methods, several manufacturers have a mix of mullions that do break up the glass, and then some additional muttons that are typically applied to the face of the glass to break it up further. I believe those doors, I'd have to double check the documents from 2016, but I believe the doors going into that pub space are of that nature, where the larger mullions actually break up the panes of glass, and then the muttons are kind of applied on both sides over the top of the glass. Would that be potentially an acceptable?
Yes,
Agreeable
historically,
solution.
it's that's a punting, not necessarily addressing the issue. And yes, you see a lot of that stuff, but this is a grand facility, property, building, and all of that is faux type stuff. And we, it's not like you can see it. It's not up to me. It's not up to the standards of this of what you have there. And this is kind of, to me, it's like taking a step backwards, not a step forward, to try to address really what needs to be done. And it's not like it's a big deal. It's just you may be going to somebody that says, yes, I want a custom built window that has these capabilities, and can you do it in wood? And I think we can get about a half a dozen people to raise their hand and say, yes, we can do that, and make it use the type of materials that are representative of what this building has. And that's literally, is to not detract. So that's the kind of the key issue, is putting something in that does not detract from the historic building and windows and just fits, and something that is using modern materials is something that you don't have to do unless you feel that that's the only choice.
I brought up the picture of the pool house that was approved in the spring because of the windows that were included. That had the divided lights, the trims, and the mullions to match the existing clubhouse profile. So it's broken up more than what you're proposing, and does appear to match better the existing clubhouse uh doors on that side, but I don't know if
This
that's
is
one
the
of
main structure.
yeah,
To me, this is the main structure. This
it
is
is.
not something that is subservient from that main structure, and therefore in design and it's something that it can be done, and it's not like should not be a difficult push.
It also the window stands out because it is the only glazing along a lot of wall there. And so it will be noticed.
We were able to achieve a better reflection of, again, the subdivided lights, and sacrifice the operational kind of projected hydraulic canopy. So instead of projecting it vertically, if we were able to, again, achieve a better aesthetic, that's a little more cohesive with the overall clubhouse, but the operation of the windows were either to the side, whether they're sliding or hinged. Would the board have any issues relative to operations versus aesthetics?
I would.
Sliding doors or windows are not historic, like in that sense. A vertical going up, these could be there's a lot of tools or methodologies to tilt it up if that's what you want to do, and just tilting it up and finding a way to get that up is just something that could be done, and it's not heck, I have in my car, I press a button and my tailgate goes up, so I can't. Anyway, I think that if the will is there, the way is available.
Pam, you were going to say something as well?
Oh, I just said I don't have a problem with the mechanical or how the window opens, because it is a service window. As people are there at the window, they're more worried about the service transaction that's going on than they are the window. I'm more worried about when the window is closed, and the aesthetic along that wall at that point. So I don't have real issues in regards to whether it slides or tilts or
Opens.
double hung or whatever. I'm not as concerned about the mechanics itself.
James, I saw that you nod your head with that do you have an opinion?
I mean, I agree with Pam on that. I mean, I don't have as big an issue with multiple, with single pane. I do prefer to have the aesthetics kind of blend in with the way the other windows are. So I'm okay with it. I think I agree with Pam.
Sherry, do you care how the window opens or
Whatever works the best for them as well. It's important.
okay. I'm asking for everyone's input, including Rick's, if you want to add your input on the mechanics so that if the applicant comes back with something, I understand how the Historic Review Board felt about how whether it needed to open like this or open up. And so as I review any alterations, I want to make sure that I am being sensitive to your opinions and your expertise. Rick?
Um, well, first off, sorry, it's been one of those days, kind of those weeks, and I know everybody's busy, but I'm going to take a mulligan on that. Very fitting, I think. And I don't, one way or the other, I think what the group comes up with, I would agree with it. So it's functional and can get us close to what we want would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, having the window raise is more usable by it's a more usable solution and less likely to fail, I think, is having things the sliding windows would be. Plus it provides kind of a shade and cover for that space as well without adding a awning or something else there. So
One thought that you just mentioned something about sliding, etc. And I thinking about it, sliding versus lifting up and thinking about the air conditioning inside. Now, I'm not the engineer by any means, but if it's sliding up, that means all this air coming out. And if it were open differently, it would be, I would think, more practical.
well, I would assume that's a serving area, so it's probably heated, but it's a kitchen space maybe. I can't remember what that space is being used for, but
Probably
primarily you'd have it up during the
the whole time, the whole afternoon.
warmer weather when you're going to really want the air
You would
to be
think
able to
that would
stay
leave it
up.
wide open though, and not be efficient for temperature control.
Yeah, the location of the window is actually
Yeah, I think the
a smaller
sliding
room.
would be much different.
Yeah, it's a smaller subdivided room from a larger kitchen, so the environmentally it's isolated. And
Okay,
from
I
a
didn't know that.
sanitation purpose and health code, actually it's actually separated from a larger
Okay,
kitchen area, so it is smaller and it is treated separately. To your comment there, Sherry.
Ideally, the windows should be proportionately in design like to the upper windows. So in a sense, uh, uh, tall and narrow. So 3 panes or 2 panes, but in proportional types. So if we shrink them down, they look, they fit in a kind of a design over by just vertically running your eyes down from one to the next. But this how the mullions and having separate windows, I believe that is critical because the other part, having faux type mullions stuck on the side of a glass where you can see between them. It's just, it's not appropriate for a historic building like this when we know that it's capable of being done in a it's just separate pieces of glass. And to me, as long as it kind of fits, how you fold it up or is I just like the trim all around it to look similar and match up with other trim that has historic nature, and have the windows of a design and proportion that is similar in proportion, and materials that are historic and not something that is from the 21st century. It's kind of like, if you can do that, this is to try to make something really look right and nice and first class. And that's doing something first class in Waverly should be something that everyone wants to achieve.
So
Paul,
it has,
we're looking at those three panes of glass so that they kind of tie in with the windows above that are more vertical as opposed to horizontal windows.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
three separate pieces of glass that ties in with that upper level.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think as long as it ties in with the vertical windows above, I think it's fine. And three panes of glass, I agree with you. Then it's
The eyes of a historic building are the windows.
Yeah.
Historically, in all of the classes I've taken on historic preservation, that's one of the things that they keep on echoing into my ear.
Yeah, and it's having the same type of window treats as above as below.
Yeah.
But I think that makes it less obtrusive.
you all have discussed the window quite a bit. Is there any concern with their proposal about the doors?
I mentioned the doors. I think if you're replacing the doors with something more modern as far as durability, is it gonna look like the same door basically? Because if you're trying to stick with the 50s look of the door, I think it's just door is a door. I don't think you're gonna that's a pretty plain door as it is. So.
I would love to see a more historic door put in that is representative to and has some context to existing doors. Okay, in design and proportion.
That was kind of where I was getting at earlier on. Was you're either if you're gonna use the same door and just move it slightly, that's one thing. But if you're replacing the door, maybe it's a good time to go with something that is more in line with what like you're saying, the rest of the exterior doors of the building. That would be,
yes.
I mean, if it's possible to do that, that would be nice to have that done that way.
So you would replace the historic 1950s door with one that looks like it's from the 1930s?
30s or that is in context.
But isn't that creating a false
with existing doors, with doors that exist within the main building that are, so it's representative. It's like taking do it. I took a door out that was 1880 that was sagging and out of wood, took it over to a place, and I said, make me a brand new one out of good material. And so I had one made, and it fits right in and perfect. So it can be done.
I would be concerned that if they replace a 1950s door with a door that looks like it's from the 30s, it would create a false sense of historic development. And that lower level did not have doors when it was originally created. So making it look historic may be against the code.
It's about not detracting.
Yeah.
Okay, this is when I put a metal door in, that is taking the step of detracting from the composite of what makes up the Waverly Country Club type facility. And so the metal this case is a detracting type element that where we could do better. That's my opinion.
As I said earlier, Joy, I don't have a problem with the utilitarian blank door being in a different material. I don't find it distracting because that's what's been there. So I'm okay with that.
And it appears that one door is remaining, one of the 1950s doors remaining without a change. So if you want it to look similar along that whole elevation, you would want it to match that existing door that's not being changed and not look like something from the eastern facade.
And that's, I think, my earlier question was making sure that the door that's the remaining door, if it's being changed, it matches whatever the other door is on that floor then. So like you said, that those two should match. So if you're putting in a metal door, it should match as close as possible to the other door.
So this is the current existing doors. And
were those doors metal doors? There were not metal doors in 1950, and probably the changeover to metal doors readily available did not occur. I would have to go back and say it would be almost questionable that those doors were original from the time of the 1950s. And so what they are when they got put in is just part of maintenance, and no one thinks much about it. But the question of really is, this is such an important building, and they're going in and trying to do something nice. And while they're doing something nice, let's make it look really good and use appropriate materials. And if they had to replace the other door to have two matching doors that look nice and are better, so be it. But that would be, it's trying to do it first class. And I just think trying to go second class in this place is not the best solution.
So I thought that the existing doors were wood doors.
Yeah, wood doors, but something with character, that has some degree of character, that kind of rings a bell about the beauty of the whole place. And that's trying to say, look at what's existing and see if we can find something that's appropriate within doors and designs that would make people say, hey, again, this is something pretty nice.
Yeah, I understand that. I think with what Pam was saying, with the no issue with that front area. So long as this new metal door, it looks similar to the wooden door that's existing, then I'm okay with that. And it would be, I agree with you. It would be nice to have something that, for aesthetics, to have it look something like from an earlier time period. But my biggest concern is that whatever's there matches. They look identical.
so that these two doors look identical.
Yeah, I mean that's key.
If replacing both doors, and doing it in a first class way and making it have some designed feel that's like the building itself, is a step forward. And I think that this food service area and bar, I would assume, is going to be heavily used, and it's people that are there that have the same ambiance in their own homes, and this is it's not like a big push.
So the question I have on that, the door that's being moved, is that intended for security for, keep you not being able to break into that space, or uh, I'm not sure what they.
Yes. James, I think all the exterior doors obviously are treated with, hardware to mitigate kind of entry. And certainly this is
Yeah.
not a visible door being on the west facade, kind of river facing, so it's not a street, immediately accessible door, but
Yeah.
certainly something that
Well, I mean,
they've.
I think that they'd be more of a security issue than the other doors. I mean, the other doors that are on the exterior, a lot of them are glass, but to have a glass door on that level would be problematic security wise, probably.
Yeah, there's all exterior lockable hardware on all the perimeter doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherry, I see that your hand is up.
Yeah, I agree with Paul and James that it would be nice to have something that was more aesthetic and prettier, if you will. But I think you said that we couldn't go backwards and say, this is the way it should have looked, and it's already been done. And so I think we should stick with what it is, not what it should be.
Right.
And I think it should be. I wish there was a way to do that, but I think I heard you say there isn't. Not lawfully.
Staff would have concern about creating a false sense of historic time period by using a door that matches the eastern facade. Because in 1913 there wasn't a door there. In 1930 there wasn't a door there. So by matching the eastern facade, we would be creating a false sense of historic nature on that western facade. So staff would personally have a concern about that because of the way the code is written.
You said it much better than I did.
But some character to it is better than no character. That's my, that's my,
I like character, just like
I
you.
like it. And that's and you can do some character without making it trying to fully emulate a period earlier period. You can just have some character to it that is uh, that is more than a flat metal door. And I think that's is would be more appropriate than a flat metal door, even if it matches the other flat metal door.
Rick, do you have uh, an opinion on doors tonight?
Just as you said that, I thought, well, all we need to do is just take some old golf clubs from the 30s and put them on the 30 doors, and on the 50s you put the golf clubs instead of these big, big old things they're using these days. Or put a little clock on there full of golf balls, and there you go. So that you can set it to that way.
That's one way to give it character and let
Yes.
people know when it was installed.
That's right. And a couple of old cleats, golf cleats that actually had the metal cleats in them, on the doors.
Those might stink, Rick.
Well,
I would love to see them come up with some ideas and bring it to you, Joy, and with your magical wand, you can approve it and say we give you the latitude to say I just like the fact that they're trying to meet the needs of their members and do it and make it nice. And I agree with doing that, but it's just I think that we can have a little bit of character in it and material so that it doesn't detract.
Okay. I can work with that.
Okay.
I may reach out to a couple of you or all of you for advice about the windows that they come back with. to make sure that it meets the discussion and the thoughts that were in your head. Because sometimes it's hard to know until you see a picture or a representation.
We're here
Pam?
for you, Joy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sherry, there's a custom wood window place on between Oregon City and Canby. I can't remember the name of it, but it's somewhere right along on 99. And they will manufacture windows. I know of a guy in my historic district who's just building a building, and he had a window built for him. They're all wood. And I know in Multnomah County, the people that I used a long time ago, Wooddale Windows was a major first. They do a lot for historic buildings, and do it all in, like straight grain, old types of the types of materials that would be found. So there are these places I know that are available, and but I just would love to see something that is not faux.
So as we're talking about windows, I feel
Yep.
like we have shared with the applicant's representatives what is needed for the windows. There does not, and I'll work with them with the doors. Matthew wanted to ask your for your expert opinion about the pool house for just a second. And so I'm going to turn it over to Matthew to ask the question.
I think there's a question on the table. There have been, from the approval earlier this spring to where we are now currently on the project, there have been some technical discoveries and some other challenges that have brought about the request to modify what was originally approved, not in footprint, not in volume, not in configuration, but some of the proposed details that were presented as part of the overall approval. We do have some exhibits to show kind of what was previously approved, as well as what we are proposing as modifications to the building.
I want to put some frame around this. If these modifications are too large and concerning, then they will require a historic review board intensive look and a separate application. But as you guys look at these changes, if you find that they are in line and not a concern, then as I review the building permit, I'll be able to approve them based on your quick conversation tonight. But if it needs an in-depth discussion, we will have a land use application. Okay? So that's why while you're here talking about the Waverly Country Club, I told Matthew he could ask the question. I have not seen what he's about to show you guys. So go for it, Matthew.
I will do the file here just a second. Thank you. Great. For just some background and context, again, we've seen the the west facade here of the existing building, the clubhouse, the evolution of the architecture, kind of through the 30s and 40s. As Joy referenced, GBD it has been involved with Waverly for 25 years relative to modifications to buildings, newer buildings. Again, that echo kind of the existing character and structure of the historic clubhouse. What had previously been proposed, again, is for the quote unquote pool house is really twofold. It's an equipment room that houses all the equipment for the newer swimming pool and its location, as well as restrooms, changing rooms, and showers for members to kind of improve facilities for their use. The previous design had a trellis detail and element that wrapped the southwest, west, and northwest corner of the building, as well as kind of an exit stair from the pool deck down to a larger lawn area, which sits at the upper bank of the Willamette. Waverly would like to enhance and increase kind of some of the usability of that real estate there for events, and so some of the pool modifications and locations have shifted. However, the building remains as is. The modifications that we're looking at are largely removing the previous trellis element that was on the north and west facade, but still maintaining that along the balance of this overall kind of southern facade. And so as a basis of comparison, the original and approved elevations for both the west and the south here are in the upper quadrant of this page, and the proposed elevations are down lower. And so the necessity for that previous stair at the northwest corner of the pool house building is no longer required. And so to mitigate for that, we're planning to add landscaping and remove kind of the trellis that was wrapping around the outside of the building. So the trellis still remains, it's just the volume and size of the trellis overall carrying around the west facade, which is proposed to be kind of modified and removed from the project. Looking at the north and east elevation, again, the original approved design here is in the upper portion of the page. The proposed modifications are down low. This facade kind of occurs between the 18th green of the golf course and the pool itself. There were 3 small windows in restroom and changing rooms down low, with kind of 3 upper dormers kind of within the roof area. We're still proposing to maintain the upper dormers, spreading those out to better reflect kind of a balance along the overall roof area. But there's concern about 1, visibility, and then 2, the proximity from the green to the building itself. Although there is a large established hedge planned between the building and the green, some of the golfers profess their golf game to be a little stronger than it actually is, and puts the building potentially in harm's way. Could be a future maintenance concern and issue relative to damage and repair. So the proposal would be to maintain the same level of trim and detail and cornicing along the balance of the facade, but simply just removing the 3 windows on the north end there. This is also a portion of the trellis that was previously approved that was is now kind of proposed to be removed. All the same landscaping measures and treatments along the perimeter are to be maintained. No changes there. But looking at kind of a before and after, this was the original, on the left-hand side was the original proposed design. So again, this is the north facade, the number 18 green. You can see where that trellis was previously applied, and the kind of proposed edit, which shows the removal of that trellised element. Along the south, or view from the kind of southwest corner, looking at the building. Again, this is where the previous approval had the trellis wrapping around the west facade. The trellis would still be maintained along the south facade, but kind of terminate and end on the west end of the building. The rest of the building, in terms of windows, details, cornicing, everything remains as was originally kind of reviewed and approved a couple months ago. And the last view from kind of the south and southeast, again, modifications to the extent of trellis, there were several columns also that were provided. There was a request to kind of simplify the location of those columns to provide enhanced usability for the pool deck itself by the club. So again, maintaining the trellis, maintaining landscaping up against the building, but simplifying the number and frequency of the columns is what is being kind of proposed. No modifications to, again, other windows, other details, and certainly no modifications to any of the previous materials, colorways, or other details that were approved and proposed at the time.
This looks potentially large. So if the Historic Review Board would like to consider it at a different time, that is available. I personally see a large difference in the cornices being spread out, but I look forward to hearing what Pam just unmuted to say.
Yes. Keep that picture up, please. Two concerns for me. One is the changes to the trellis. I'm not sure spreading. I get the concern about wanting them spread out, but that does affect the feel of the building, the aesthetic of the building, and the main building has different spaced columns, but several that are closer together. And I kind of see the changes in the trellis columns as kind of wiping away some of the character. The other issue I have is the three windows, the three upper windows. I don't have a problem with the lower windows. Those are fine for me. But the upper windows, I'm not understanding if those are providing light into the usable area. Why is the one on the far right halfway over the breezeway? They look better in the upper elevation where they're a little more centered over the occupiable portion of the building itself. And that bothers me a little bit. It just doesn't, it takes away, the spacing takes away, even though they're a little more symmetrical, it just, with it covering part of the breezeway, makes no sense, logical sense to me. Those are the two real issues I have with it. The changes to the trellis and those windows.
I think the only context I would add to that, Pam, thank you for the for your thoughts, is that those windows, just because of the construction methodology, don't provide light to the occupiable space. It's more of a storage space that is the overbuilt framing that creates that.
So there's no exterior light into the occupiable part of the building?
Not from this facade.
So then there is an upper level storage area, Pam, but not to the lower changing and restrooms.
Everyone raised their hand, so it looks like this is a big deal. And that's one of the reasons that I am asking you all. And I think Paul was next, But again, if this is going to be a large discussion, then we need to have an application.
Be very quick. I'm concerned about when we wipe away the trellises and the windows, we change kind of the appearance of massing. And it's kind of it changes the view of it. As far as the upper placement of the windows in I don't see. I just like to see them kind of proportionally look like they were proportioned to the size of the window and to the size of the roof up there. And I just would like I think that the three separated a little bit more actually to me looks better. But when I wipe out the little windows and I take out the trellis, boy, do I change the appearance and increase a kind of a massing of a wall that needs texture, needs something. And the trellis gave it something. And yeah, I think it's a work in progress to be addressed, figured out in better detail. Thank you.
Sherry, I think you are next.
Yes, I share Paul's concern about the smaller windows, and I'm wondering even if they could have a pardon the word, Paul, a fall window
Yeah.
that is just to make it more pleasing and not just look like a bunker when the bottom one, and without the trellis and the windows, it's concerning. And also I'm wondering about pardon me again about the door. What is it made out of, and how is it fit in? So I think it'd be good to take this one on separately.
James?
No, yeah. I mean, I see their point. I see what they're trying to do. Make more usability of the space. But I think it's definitely something we have to look at in way more detail. I think something more in between the two of these needs to be put together. I think this is just too drastic of a change. The new proposed space.
From an environmental overlay standpoint, staff has no problems with the removal of the steps towards the river because it reduces the footprint towards an environmental overlay.
Yeah.
But none of you discussed the removal of those steps. So I
Well,
think if the trellis is retained, the windows are retained, and the dormer windows are in the same location as was approved, the removal of the steps would not cause any qualms based on what I heard, your initial reaction. And
I
staff
was
would
going
be,
to comment on. Oh, go ahead.
yeah?
I was going to comment on the steps. I think that was actually a good move because I think it does keeps it more of a natural space as opposed to being utilitarian.
Okay.
I don't
Thank you
have
for that.
any trouble with the step removal either, and moving of the door. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
The trellis change on the front facade does concern me a bit.
Yes. Okay, so Matthew,
Mhm.
the removal of the steps on the western edge is fine, and the orientation of that door into the equipment room is fine. But if you make any of those other changes, you'll need a land use application.
Okay.
And you heard their initial reaction, so you can make your proposal reflective of the Historic Review Board concerns. All right. So as far as Z0434, which is the service window and the moving of the doors, I will be sending out whatever the applicants provide as far as a revised window design. and getting feedback from you all before I finalize the decision. Because I think that's important to have your expert opinion on. And thank you all for your time. Matthew and Josh, I look forward to receiving that and passing it on to the Historic Review Board. We do not need a continued meeting based on what Paul said. Is that correct?
I would concur.
Okay, so through email is fine. Okay, perfect. Then the turnaround will be quicker.
That's-
Okay. Um, do you have any further questions for the applicant before I send them on their way? No. Okay. Thank you for attending tonight.
Thank you all for your time and your input. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, who wants to be chair? Chair Schmier has resigned. So the besides calling on people and calling the meeting to order, when we have vacancies, such as Chair Schmier's, the chair is involved in interviewing potential historic review board members who apply. And so there is a little bit more to the chair position, but not a significant amount.
Do we nominate someone?
Yes.
I nominate Paul Edgar.
I, it's one of those things where I would do it, but I feel like that sometimes I'm drowning in activities that where I'm opinionated and 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 I really respect the need for having good historic preservation as as one of those priorities to me in my life and what's important. And as long as Joy would be try to filter everything as much as possible, and everybody else steps up, I would be a figurehead if that way. But I would love to have somebody else step up and say that they would be like Sherry being vice chair. So then we, or one of you, just somebody to do it so that we're,
Does
who
the
cares?
vice chair do more than the chair, or?
When the chair is not there, the vice chair can lead the meetings
Yes.
Yeah.
or keep Paul in check if
I'll
Paul
do
is
it.
talking
I'll do
too
that.
Oh, that sounds like she desperately
I've
wants
known
that
Paul for
position.
a lot of years.
It's a perfect team, then.
So should I nominate or second Paul's nomination and put Cherry's nomination for vice chair?
That'd be great.
We have to vote separately.
No, we'll
Gotta do it together.
Vote the
put
ballot.
together. I would approve it based upon that so that we would move ahead, make it go.
Any more discussion? If in favor, raise your hand. Okay, great. Paul, you are now chair. Sherry, you are now vice chair.
Thank you both.
Thank you. All right. I'll let Darcy know so that we can update our records.
Okay. And thank you for, this is like Waverly to me, is I could remember going into the place in the, 1960s and work being going in and out. And I, it's a place of class. It's, it's beautiful. And therefore, in my mind, it just deserves some respect. I, and that's, I think that that was part of my my projections that I was trying to put out was they know how to do it first class.
Gotta keep
Why not
them,
do it?
keep them honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have any land use applications in right now. So there's nothing that I can say for sure is on the docket for review coming up. But as a certified local government, we do need to have 4 meetings every year. And so they tend to come in the spring and the summer. So I hope that we do. And if there's any other things that you want to put on the agenda, just let me know.
Joy, I've got
Yes.
a question for you. Do CLG grants come through us?
They have to, yes. We have to apply for them.
Okay.
And in the past, I have asked if one of you all would write a CLG grant if you want to apply for one, because I do not have the direction or the time to spend on writing a grant, but there are a lot of historic landmarks out there that could use every penny they could get.
Well,
Um,
I might at the start of next year, I might take you up on that because we have some issues with our 1860 barn that needs a new beam.
is it a local historic landmark?
It's on the National Register.
That's not the same as a local historic landmark.
Well, it was also in 1992 put on the Clackamas County Landmarks.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have some work to do. How's that?
And uh, properties on the National Register have more resources available to them through SHPO and uh, Restore Oregon and the Kinsman Foundation than local historic landmarks that are not able to access some of the same grants that National Register properties are. That is my only hesitation about using the CLG funds for something that is not education or not specific for a local historic landmark. However, there is not a local historic landmark that has come forward yet to say, please apply for this grant on my behalf. And so it is up to the Historic Review Board to determine what your priorities are. Um, I know the Viola School needs a lot of work. I know that Mark Prairie just did a whole lot of work but did not ask for a CLG grant. I know that the Karis Schoolhouse is looking at getting their local historic landmark certification back so that they may be eligible for a CLG grant. And so I know that there's a lot of resources or a lot of historic structures out there that need funds. And CLG grants are 13 to 15,000. It's not a whole lot of money when a project is much larger than that. But for some of our local historic landmarks, it can be a big deal. Um, and so that is just my 2 cents, Rick. The Karis Schoolhouse has reached out to see how they could also get a CLG grant. And I told them without being a local historic landmark, staff wouldn't be able to support their application because of the fact that we have a lot of local historic landmarks. But
How is that designated? I mean, like our property, it's on the National Register, and at one point we had And I tried to look once and then got busy doing other stuff, but
It is actually a zone change. It is free. You work with me, you craft, it is similar to the National Register, as in you get all the background on the historic significance, the site significance, the architectural significance, and the Historic Review Board rates it based on all the environmental, architectural, and contextual significance that the site has. And if you get 40 points or more, the Historic Review Board recommends to the Board of County Commissioners that they designate the property a local historic landmark. That is an overlay zone. That is a zoning overlay. So some properties only designate the actual structure.
right.
Some properties designate all 100 acres of the property. Some properties designate 2 acres, So it's in the 90s, the county was doing it to properties. Now properties are choosing whether they want to have this historic overlay on them or not. It does impact what you do in the future. Any exterior modifications have to be approved by the Historic Review Board. And that's why you're seeing a lot of applications from the Waverly Country Club, because they are a historic landmark. So and the entire property is designated a historic landmark. So all 103 acres. So any changes to that site is supposed to come before you all. So that is my personal opinion and a little bit of background on local historic landmarks. It does take about 6 months because of notices. We are required to notify DLCD, and the public hearings get 35-day notice. So the notice is before 35 days prior to a historic review board meeting, and then we have to work within the Board of County Commissioners schedule to get it before them. So it takes about 6 months to designate a property as a historic landmark. And it's all based on rating that staff and the Historic Review Board do. And so your expertise in history and significance and your reading of the details of the history will be important when we have land use applications for designating a property a historic landmark.
And if something like that happened in 92, would it still be marked someplace somewhere that I could research?
Yeah. We have the inventories. We have inventories of the historic resources in Clackamas County. Your barn might be on it from the 80s or 90s, but not every property is on it. There has been a gentleman who lives in the Kirk House over in Oak Grove. I want to say Kirk, may not be Kirk. Was interested in designating their property as a historic landmark. And architecturally, it's very unique. It's really cool. But I don't know any of the history, and they don't know enough history to flesh out a land use application. So I hope they're in the process of gathering all that history for a historic landmark application. They have had a pre-app. And so hopefully they're gathering that. So there may be more than just Rick's barn and the Karis Schoolhouse coming before you this year for local historic designation. We haven't had one since 2021. So yeah. The Kinsman Foundation House was the last historic landmark designated in Clackamas County.
thank you for that.
Yeah. Chair, you're now in charge. You're muted.
Oh, I am?
I'm thinking about the Steiner cabins
Yes.
up in the mountain and all of those
Yep.
beautiful resources that are up there. To me, it's like I would love to see us, the county, kind of reach out into all the different areas and say, asking people, what is an important historic resource of your area that maybe we should be considering as important or protecting, and just asking people of different areas, old families that know about the history of different areas. My wife went to Dickey Prairie Grade School when it was one room.
Yep.
In Molalla. So, and it's and there's all of these people around that would be from that period that could tell you the real stories.
A property owner of a Steiner cabin has had a pre-app to learn more about the local designation process as well as the National Historic Register process. So I hope that they're sharing the information with other Steiner cabin owners, and we may see an application from them at some point. Again, we're at a place now where the county is designating them when the property owner requests to be designated.
Okay.
If you all want to change that, that is a conversation with the board, and maybe we are more proactive, but it would require more work on your part.
But yeah, there's all of these beautiful farmsteads
There are.
and donation land claims that are across the county, and many of them have immense history that's are part of the fabric of Clackamas County.
Yes. I was hoping, Paul, that you would ask if there is a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn. No, thank
You're
you.
the chair. You're
I'm
supposed
sorry.
to ask if there is a motion to adjourn. It looks like Rick so moves.
Yes.
Okay.
All approved? We're closing the door.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, everybody.
Happy holiday, Merry
holidays.
Christmas,
Have
Bye.
a safe holiday.
and see you next year.
Yes.
Oh, and Rick, thank you for the poem.
You're welcome.
Rick wrote a poem to the Board of County Commissioners, thanking all the volunteers that make this county run, which includes you all. And it was a beautiful poem.
It's just, well, everything. It's nice to lighten the business meetings for him occasionally, or at least
Yeah.
once a month.
So you're giving context to Les Poole.
Um,
All right.
yes.
My friend.
All right. Good night,
Yeah.
everyone.
Good
Night.
night. Thank
Good
you
night.
all.
Thanks
Bye.
for your good work, Joy.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks.